Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Imperfect Marketing. I'm your host, Kendra Corman, and today I am joined by TJ. He is the owner of Hite Digital Bend and the publisher of Whirl Local Central Oregon, where he guides adventurous entrepreneurs to clarify their messaging, develop the right marketing strategies, and gain a new level of freedom in their business. And I love how that sounds, freedom in your business, right? He's also the host of Adventurous Entrepreneurs podcast, where he explores the journeys of adventurous entrepreneurs to inspire, inform, and guide others to take action and reach their goals. Welcome, TJ. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, Kendra, great to be here. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you, partially because when we were talking before we started recording, we were talking about the fact that you're a big proponent of designing your business around the life you want to live, building systems and partnerships that are going to create more freedom, which I know everybody wants, right? Everybody starts a business because they want more freedom. And then they work in their business and then they realize that they have less freedom, right? They feel more tied and more bogged down. So talk to me a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so I feel passionate about this question because, like you said, so many of us start a business with this grand goal of creating the lifestyle we want to live, building a life of freedom. But what ultimately ends up happening is we just build a job for ourselves that we can never turn off. It's always there. There's always more to do and infinite amount of time that we could fill. So for me, the biggest thing, I started my corporate career back in 2015, jumped on the hamster wheel and was grinding for a long time, and came to a point where my girlfriend, now my wife, and I were feeling unfulfilled. We were living down in the Bay Area. We had some fun there, but really didn't like living in the big city. We weren't enjoying the burnout trajectory we were on. So we kind of created a vision board. We said, what do we want our life to look like in the next 5 years? And travel was a big part of that. And we decided that we were going to quit our jobs, sell off most of our belongings, and go on a one-way trip to Southeast Asia and try to travel for a year. And so that's what we did. We saved up, we quit our jobs, we sold off our stuff. And I decided that I was going to use that time to build a business so that when I came back, I didn't have to polish up my resume and hit the streets looking for a job, but could build something where we could live where we want, we could travel when we wanted, and I'd be able to serve people from wherever we were in the world. So fast forward a year and a half, actually, we ended up traveling for 15 months. I started my first company, eThrive Marketing, while we were overseas, helping clients with their social media, with their digital advertising. And then when we came back, we were living in Ashland, Oregon, where my family grew up. Moved back in with my parents for a couple of months, figured out what our next move was, really went all in on the business. And the biggest goal I had was, all right, I need to do this intentionally so that, yeah, we can live where we want, but I'm not just a slave to my own creation here. And let me tell you that it's easier said than done. I definitely failed for quite a long time to actually realize that goal. Being a first-time business owner, figuring out how to build the right systems, checking my ego and being comfortable asking for help, and surrounding myself with a tribe of people that were all working towards the same goals, that I could help people and learn through that process, but also ask for the help that I needed. So first few years were a grind, and we can dive into some specifics, but it's definitely something that is much easier to do when you're intentional about it from day one, like we were with this trip and starting the business, and actually having a vision of what you want your life to look like day in and day out while you're building, and even once you reach that level of success that you're looking for within the business.
Well, I love the intentionality of it. And then I like not being afraid to ask for help because we don't have all the answers, right? Other people have learned this before us and learned, probably made some more mistakes along the way. I know I've got a list of mistakes that I could go over on a regular basis. That's why this show is called Imperfect Marketing, because it's nothing perfect about it. So let's talk about these processes and partnerships that you set up. When you talk about processes, are you talking about Like, did you limit your product offerings so that they were
Hmm.
scalable? Did you focus on certain verticals? Like, what did you hire people, bring them on so that you can
All of the
offload it?
above, Kendra. All of the above, and I failed at all of them in the beginning. So, I mean, I said yes to everything. Let's be honest here. Any client that wanted to work with us, whether I knew they were going to be a vampire client or the project was just going to stretch me super thin, I said yes, and I learned a lot. And in the beginning, I was doing everything. So if I sold a website or I brought on a social media client or a digital advertising campaign, I was the one fulfilling on that. So of course, as you grow and take on more clients and you're still doing all of the work, you can only grow so far. You're just trading hours for dollars. And, I was making good money about 2 years in. I was just a glorified freelancer, you know, making good money, like I said, but working 70, sometimes 70 plus hours a week and not loving life, quickly burning out. So I kind of sat down and realized, hey, this is not what we set out to do. Remember, TJ, our goal was freedom, and we've just created overtime job for ourselves, and this isn't sustainable long term. So that's when I started looking for people, hiring contractors to offload some of the work to, played around with hiring some white label agencies. But I alluded to this a little bit earlier. My ego then was my biggest challenge because I was so used to doing it and doing it my way. Now I'm bringing other people in and relinquishing control, but maybe I don't like the way they're doing it for whatever reason, or in some cases it was just terrible and I needed to cut ties and find someone new. So grinded that out for another year or so, and I learned a lot and was able to actually develop some of the processes to, create a systematized way that I wanted to do things, but just never felt good about, the product that I was having, doing it through other people and outsourcing the work. So fast forward a little bit, I had a mentor at the time, a coach that I was working with, and he was a digital marketing agency owner. He ultimately took his business and merged it with a digital marketing franchise, Hite Digital. And this was a very unique model at the time, first of its kind, working with existing agency owners who had grown to a certain level of success. And for a couple different reasons, but for me, the biggest one was I needed the fulfillment side. So being able to plug into somebody else's system that was working well, high quality, and a group of people that I knew had similar values and were on a similar mission to how I wanted to serve my clients. We talked one day, kind of one thing led to another, and I realized, no, this makes sense. I can do what I love to do, which is working with people and focusing on the sales and marketing, but bring in a team and a system and just plug into something that I know is already working. So for me, that's the route I took. I ultimately merged my business into this franchise, and now I've got amazing people behind the scenes who are my outsourced but internal marketing team. And when I bring on a client, we get to work internally with our team at Hite Digital to get the results that we need to get. So everybody's route's going to look different. And I think sometimes you don't have to figure it all out on your own. There are game plans and blueprints that you can follow. And for me, that helped me to scale far beyond what I thought I could.
Very cool. So let me ask the question. So we have a lot of solopreneurs, coaches, consultants that, yeah, they're going to be limited because they're trading, hours for dollars here.
Yeah.
What was, when you were doing that, what was one of the biggest process improvements or changes that you made that made a difference to you?
Mm. Kind of, we're talking a little bit about this in terms of like blocking out time for podcasting. For me, I was just reactive. A client would email, I'd jump in and work on that, or I'd have a list of projects I wanted to do through the week, and I had no way to triage and figure out which one is the priority and which one should I do now versus later in the week. So I'd just kind of jump in and start chipping away and multitasking and jumping from one task to the next. So one of the biggest game changers for me was actually taking control of my schedule, building out my calendar in a way where, hey, we're going to work on X project or X type of task on Mondays during this block of time. Tuesdays, I'm all in on my outbound prospecting, marketing, business development type work. Wednesdays are for our creative team and our creative projects, and just having that flow where I can get into one train of thought and just get rolling and into that flow state with a certain type of work, And for me, that just creates more efficiency and a better product at the end of the day.
Definitely. It's batching, time blocking.
Time
We
batching.
were talking before we jumped on about how we're like, happy Monday. So this is going to be released on a Thursday, but it was recorded on a Monday, weeks in advance.
Exactly.
Because this is my podcast recording Monday. And I do these because Mondays are a day that I don't touch for recurring meetings. So it's always open and flexible for scheduling. And yeah, I mean, it's really helped me. People used to be able to schedule on my calendar wherever they wanted. And so I would end a status meeting with a client and then have like a 15-minute break before I could jump over. Well, that meant I had to do my hair every day, my makeup every
Mm-hmm.
day.
Yeah.
It was just, it was crazy. And I never got into the flow. And it really felt like I was starting from scratch every episode, going, oh, wait, what am I supposed to say now? And, it just helps it flow a lot better when you're time blocking, when you're giving yourself the time to focus on the different task and you're not context switching all of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, so my word of the year for 2023 was no. And I
Mm-hmm.
turned things down left and right. And then I was like, well, maybe I turned down a few too many things. So I started loosening up on that in 2024. We're tightening back down on it again because
Yeah.
I've become a yes person again. But yeah, that not saying yes all the time, I think is really important. And I'd love to hear. So actually, when I was listening to a video training and they had referenced Marie Forleo talking about the no train. This was just
Yeah.
yesterday. I'd not actually heard about the no train, but she's like, yep, nope, get your first class ticket on the no train. And your first instinct when you're ever asked to do anything, the first response should be no,
No.
no, not doing that. No, not going to do it. And I'm like, yes, that is exactly what you should
That's
be
what I
doing.
need.
But
Totally.
I was just talking to somebody about it because they were actually asked to be in somebody's wedding and they're like, I'm not that close to this person. And I'm like, yeah, you can still tell her no. And she's like, how do I
Mm-hmm.
tell her no? And I'm like, you just say no.
Say the word.
No. She doesn't need an explanation. Just say, sorry, I can't. That's all she needs to know. But she's really struggling with it. I think she's going to
Yeah.
end up saying yes. And
As
she's
many
like, she
people
doesn't want to
would.
do it.
Yeah, as many people would. We're not responsible for how other people feel, but inevitably that's just human nature. We're hardwired to say yes to things. I love that you bring this up because last year my wife and I were in a season where we had just said yes to everything. We look at our calendar and it's like, man, we don't have a single weekend for like this whole summer where we're not doing something. And work was the same way. I was doing lots of extracurricular stuff, working with nonprofits and doing some pro bono work. And it was just like we didn't have a night to ourselves for weeks. And I wasn't happy. I was definitely feeling the burnout train, but my wife was like this isn't okay. We have no time to like be together. So she said like we need to do something. And she ended up dubbing it our season of no. So from like September through the end of the year, we just kept saying, no, this is our season of no. And we said no to pretty much everything, unless it was just like a full body yes, something that we were both super excited about and wanted to do. And it was amazing. We had such a relaxing season, especially coming into the holidays, which is always chaos for us in a good way, but just life and work blending into one and family stuff. It's very exhausting. But this year we came out feeling re-energized and really were able to hit 2024 with some momentum. And it was intentional. We're just doing this for this season. We said, all right, the end of 2023, we're gonna start saying yes to more things again. But now we're doing it with a little more intention. And I think that ties well back into what we talked about before, like designing your business or your work life around the lifestyle that you want to live. If you're just going in blind and saying yes to everything, inevitably you're going to burn out. But if you have an intention of, no, I'm going to say yes to these types of things for this reason during this season that I'm in, and realize that you're always going to have to sit back down and revisit those intentions. Things are going to change. Priorities are going to change. So it should evolve. It's not a linear path. But when you have that thought process ahead of time, it becomes a lot more clear what to say yes to. And you're going to have a lot more control over that freedom that you want to create.
So I have a new rule because my yeses got out of control after I shut down everything for my nose. And it was
Yeah.
funny because I was looking at my calendar, and I've got this huge wall calendar over here. And I put everything on it, and I'm like, said to my husband, I said, okay, so April 6th and 7th is our last free weekend until Memorial Day. And he's like, what? And he goes, I'm like, I know. He goes, we're saying no to everything else. Like, we can't do anything. Like, we
Yeah.
need to
We
have
got
a couple
nothing
weeks.
else could squeeze in there.
I'm
Yeah.
like, we got no room. And don't get me wrong. Like, some of them were like wine and cheese party, but like, it's not like it was all work or anything crazy. But like, we're looking at it going, when do we have time to unplug? And there wasn't any
Mm-hmm.
at all. So we're hiding for Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Because that's
Good
the
for
only thing
you.
left to do.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Nothing. What are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing. No, really?
Yep.
Yeah, no, nothing.
Yeah. Feels
Nothing.
feels great.
Yep. We're gonna enjoy the heck out of that. But no, so I really like the fact that you talk about not always saying yes, figuring out what those yeses are. But my rule now, though, is, because I got on like a little bit of a yes train by accident,
Mm-hmm.
is to wait 24 hours. Let me
Yeah.
look at my calendar and get back to you, and then see how I feel about it later.
Yeah. Are you
Because
excited about it, or
most
are you
people know
dreading it? Yeah.
most people know my schedule can be full often, because I do that to myself on a regular basis. But it does make a difference. And waiting
Mm-hmm.
that 24 hours, because it's like, I always want to help. I always want
Yeah.
to do whatever people are asking. And it's like, no, I can't do that.
Yeah. There's
Can't do that right
only
now.
one of you. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to clone ourselves, do all the things that people want us to do. So good for you for being able to say no to things and then building that rule. I think that's so important, is just figuring out what your process should be to, again, create the freedom that you're looking for and have time for the things in life that are most important. For my wife and I, we both work from home. So we have rules around the way we operate during the workday. Like, doors are closed, it means you don't come in, you don't knock, you just respect that there's a boundary there. 5 o'clock rolls around, regardless of if there's more work to be done. We don't always get it right, but we're very intentional about, all right, we're going to stop work. We're going to come be together, make dinner, go grab a drink, whatever it looks like. Even if I know I have to come back and do some stuff later in the evening, just making sure that we prioritize taking that time to be together, go do something with friends, go paddleboard on the river on a sunny afternoon. Like, for us, that's why we're doing what we're doing, is to have that flexibility and that freedom. So you got to think about it and build a rule and then follow the rule to be able to realize the gains and have
Yeah, the
that freedom.
non-negotiables are key. What are those non-negotiables for you? Because work will expand for the time that you allow for it. There will
Absolutely.
always be another project. There will always be something else that you can put off in between. There's always something else. So
Mm-hmm.
how can you create what that looks like for you? And again, most of us did create our businesses to have more freedom and flexibility. And I definitely have a lot more freedom and flexibility than I ever did.
Yeah.
Not necessarily as much as I thought I would. But again, most of that's self-imposed, right? And
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
building your business to fit your life, I think, is just really, really cool. Good way to think about it. And there's
Mm-hmm.
always just a different way to do things too. Like, you found a unique solution in the franchise option that allowed you to get a team that you don't necessarily have to manage on a
Yeah.
daily basis,
I don't have
right?
to worry about HR or payroll. There's a lot of perks to it
There's a
for
lot
sure.
of benefits to that,
Yeah.
right? And so the solution may not always be exactly what you think it's going to be. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's another, to be open to what the solutions are. It is also very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Just because somebody does it one way doesn't mean that's going to be the right fit for you. You got to be open to possibilities. And when they show up, you don't say yes to everything, but certain things you gotta follow the urge to look in and dig in and see if it's worth pursuing. And for me, especially with joining the franchise, that was a long process. It took like over 6 months to really decide, do I want to do this? So giving things their due diligence, but not always just looking for what's working for everybody else as the ticket to success. You got to find what works for your unique situation.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about your podcast, because we talked about limiting what you're doing, limiting what you're
Yeah,
working on, but you do have a podcast.
I
So
do.
let's
I
talk a little
do.
bit about your podcast. Why was that something that you said yes to? Why is it continuously something that you say yes to?
Yeah,
And what does it do for you in your business?
I love it. It's a great question because yeah, I mean podcasts are trending and they're also a lot of work. So on top of everything else that you have going on in life, adding a podcast to the equation can be a lot. So coming back, kind of being intentional about what you want to get out of it, how you're going to see if it's the right fit for me. I said I'm going to do 10 episodes, non-negotiable. I'm going to record 10 and see if I even like doing this, see if it's giving me the value that I was looking for. For me, that was just, hey, I want to have conversations with people that I can learn from and would be excited to talk to, regardless of if we were recording it. These are people that I want to take out to lunch, have a coffee with, and learn from. And if I'm sharing that out with the world and it's valuable to me, it's going to be valuable to other people too. So cool, checking that other box. I'm helping people. Third thing was just to get better at interviewing, get better at communicating, which translates to sales and marketing and everything that I just want to continue to hone the craft for. So, kind of some selfish reasons. I wasn't doing it to grow a podcast following of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. I just wanted to get better and do so on a weekly basis and then use that as a great tool for my content, for my brand, and being able to build out that brand while also learning and helping people along the way. So for me, after those 10 episodes, it was like, cool, check, 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 check. All the boxes are checked. I'm having fun with it. Let's keep it rolling. And I think we just recorded our 75th episode. So we're rocking and rolling. And if one day it stops being fun, I'll stop doing it. But it's that intentionality again. What do you want to get out of it? If you're going for the millions of subscribers and you're 6 months in and you're getting maybe 20 views on each episode, you're going to get discouraged, right? It's a crowded space, and unless you've got the right goals and value that you're getting out of it or giving out of it, then you're probably going to say, all right, this isn't worth continuing. So yeah, for me, it's been a really fun experience, and I get to talk to some incredibly adventurous entrepreneurs from around the world who have reached pinnacles of success that I aspire for. And really, the whole theme of the podcast is looking at their journey through the hero's journey lens. There's no linear path. We're all crisscrossing, running into roadblocks, wrong turns, people who come in and guide us along the way, the Gandalf of your story, if you will. So try to take that and learn from those journeys and tease out some lessons and insights that can help people who are either thinking about starting a business or are already doing it, but want to continue to learn and level up.
Cool. So we'll have a link to his podcast in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. Or if you prefer to just search for it wherever you're at, search for or just Adventurous Entrepreneurs podcast, right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
It'll
Wherever
pop
you're
up.
listening to podcasts, that's always a good thing to do. So be sure to check that out and listen to some of the episodes, get some insights, because that's always fun. All
It
right.
is.
So we've had a lot of conversation. A big piece of marketing and marketing small businesses and mid-sized organizations, a lot of it has to do with time and time management. And so that's why I always find it's important to work those in. So I appreciate you sharing your prioritization and some of your key tips for that and a unique solution that you found that helped you build the life that you wanted around your business, or your business around the life that you wanted. So, but before I let you go, I always ask all of my guests one question. This show is called Imperfect Marketing because anything in marketing is like not a perfect science, and everything's imperfect. So, what has been your biggest marketing lesson learned along the way?
Oh, this is a good one. So kind of going back to day one, in the beginning, I thought it was super important. Like a requirement to make sure that I had the perfect website, the perfect brand, like everything needed to be just lined out and ready to go to show people, which is true. I mean, you need those things, and those are the things that are going to help you be successful long term. But on day one, just because you build it doesn't mean they will come. And I spent a lot of time working on that stuff that would have been better used actually telling people what I was doing and getting out there and building relationships and finding those partners and getting into rooms where I could speak and just make it known that I'm here to help. So, yeah, I think the biggest thing is in the beginning, just get out there, tell people what you're doing, find those audiences where you can connect and give value and get those first few clients, because that's what you need is revenue coming in to be able to make it real and start growing the business. And from there, you can develop the assets and branding and your story and everything else as you grow and evolve. But without a customer, you're really not in business yet. So don't stress out on getting everything perfect before you actually get out there and do the work.
Progress, not perfection. And I know
Yeah,
that a lot of us who come from marketing backgrounds, from corporate backgrounds, we want that perfect. You can't launch until you have everything lined up. And yeah, you can.
you totally
You
can.
can.
Yeah.
There was one guy who one of his most read, I can't remember if it was an email, a blog post, or a podcast, but he was starting his consulting business and his coaching business. And when he started it, he's like, I don't have an address. Like, I don't want to put my home address on there. I don't have an address. Like, what are people going to think? And he moved for, and he did like a whole episode. I think it was a podcast episode that he did that was all about how it didn't matter that he didn't
Yeah.
have a business, that he didn't have a physical address, that he was working out of his home. Nobody cared.
Nobody even
His
noticed.
work, his work spoke for itself. He didn't need an address on his business card. He was just
Yeah.
so used to having it that it was hard for him to do that and to give him permission to print those business cards without the business address. So, progress over perfection. Get out there. Do not fine tune everything to the nth degree. Yes, it should work. Yes, you should have a presence, but you don't have to do everything all at once.
Yeah. Don't get stuck in paralysis by analysis. Get it to that
Exactly.
working point and go get after it, because you're going to learn a lot actually talking to people and doing the work that's going to help inform how you should be building things the right way. And it's never set in stone. Let it evolve with you.
Awesome. Thank you again so much for your time, TJ. I really appreciate it. I will have links in the show notes, of course, to TJ's podcast and to his Hite Digital site. And if you want to learn more about him or are looking forward to working with TJ and his team, feel free to reach out using that contact information. Thank you guys all again so much for tuning in. If you learned anything in this episode, I'd love it if you would rate and subscribe wherever you're listening. Until next time, have a great rest of your day.